I want to talk about the servant who buried his talent because I used to feel sorry for him, and maybe you did too, but I see it differently now. And what changed everything for me is that his problem wasn't a lack of ability, it was fear. And that fear cost him everything he'd been given. Here's the thing, that same fear might be quietly doing the same thing in your business right now. Hi, friend. Welcome back, or welcome to the Content Systems for Growth podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Dewey, and I'm so glad you're here today. So, whether you're folding your laundry, going for a walk, or finally sitting down for a quiet cup of coffee, one of my favorite things to do, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about something I've seen over and over again with faith-led business owners, and it's this: you have more than enough content. You just can't see it clearly enough to use it. And because you can't see it, it's just sitting there, buried, not working for you, not serving the people that God placed you here to serve. But today, I want to walk you through why that happens, what it's costing you, and how a simple system changes everything. So let's go back to Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. If you're not familiar, a master goes out on a journey and entrusts 3 servants with his resources. 2 of them put those resources to work and return more than they were given, but the 3rd servant, he buried his. He digged a hole in the ground and he hid it because he was scared of his master. And his mean master, I think is what it says in there. But the master returned and the servant said, I was afraid. For a long time, I honestly felt bad for him every time I read that story or heard that story because it seemed harsh that what little he had was taken away. I mean, he kept it safe, right? Nothing was lost. But here's what I've came to understand. Fear's not from God. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us that clearly, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power and of love and of sound mind. That fear the servant was operating from, that's not God's voice, and it led him to do absolutely nothing with what he had been given. He didn't fail because he tried and fell short. He failed because fear kept him from trying at all. And I think about how many faith-led women I work with are doing this exact same thing with their content. Not out of laziness, not out of lack of ideas, but because fear and overwhelm have them paralyzed. Fear that their content isn't good enough anymore, fear that no one will find it, fear that they have to start over. So they either keep creating more, hoping that more will finally fix that feeling, or they do absolutely nothing at all. And that content, it just sits there. It's buried for no one to ever see again. But here's what actually happens. And I want you to hear this clearly because it's not a discipline problem and it's not a strategy problem. The content you have created, the podcast episodes, the blog posts, the emails, the trainings, it exists. It's real and most of it has value. The problem is it's not organized in a way that lets you see, use it, or build on it. You sit down to work and you feel scattered. You feel like you're always starting from scratch. You feel like you're creating, but nothing is building. That feeling is not a sign that you need more content. That feeling is a sign that you need a system for what you already have. I want you to know this is incredibly common among established business owners. And I mean established. Women who have been doing this for years, who have shown up consistently, who have real content libraries sitting in Google Drive, folders and podcast feeds and Notion databases. The more content you create over time, the more this becomes a problem because you're constantly growing as a business owner. Because without a system, content doesn't stack, it's scattered. And when it's scattered, you can't steward it well. You can't see what's still relevant. You can't see what needs to be updated, and you can't connect it to your current offers in a way that actually serves your people. Let me offer you a different way to think about this. What if organizing your content is actually an act of stewardship? You were given these ideas, you were given this voice, you were given the time and the calling to show up and create. And that content, all of it is an asset to your business. It is something God gave you to put to work 1 Corinthians 14:40 says everything should be done fitting in orderly ways. Orderly. That word always sticks with me. Not perfect, not more, orderly. When your content is organized, you finally see what you have. You can see what is still working. You can see what can be refreshed and reused. And you can see how it all connects to where you are right now in your business. That clarity is what allows your content to actually serve people, and serve people well is the whole point. What does a system to organize your content actually look like? It starts by stopping. Yep, that's right. Because before you create anything new, you pause and you look at what already exists. Do you have an honest inventory of what you've created? Not a judgmental one, a compassionate one. You're looking for what's still valuable, what has a longer shelf life than you actually gave it credit for. From there, it's about organization, not a complicated organization system, a simple one that it works the way your brain works. Where your content lives matters. How it's labeled matters. Being able to find things quickly is the whole difference between a library that works for you and a pile that overwhelms you. I may have mentioned this before. When I was in middle school, I loved working in the library and putting books away with that whole system and categorization that they have so that you can find things easily. That's the same thing. That's why I like to call it a content library, because it helps you find things easily. Then you're able to start connecting all those dots. Which content speaks to your current ideal client? Which episode or post could be updated to reflect where your business is today? Which piece of content already connected to your offers, and which ones should be? This is where the work gets exciting, because when you finally see that full picture, you can stop feeling scattered. You stop feeling like you're behind, and you start feeling like you actually have something to work with, because you do. You have piles and piles of things to work with. If you're listening to this and thinking, yes, this is exactly where I am, I want you to know this is exactly what we do inside the Content Clarity and Cleanup. This is not a big package. It is a focused session where we step back and look at your content together. We look at what you have, what still matters, and what can be refreshed or reused, and where your current system is breaking down. And you walk away with the clarity on exactly what to focus on and how your content can finally start working for you. You don't need another strategy. You don't need more content. You need someone to help you see what's already there and make sense of it. The link to learn more about the Content Clarity and Cleanup is in the show notes. I would love to work with you. And if you're not quite ready for that and you want to start on your own, I have a free resource for you. It's the Organic Content Creation Workflow. It's a step-by-step guide to help you start bringing order to your content creation process. You can grab that in the show notes as well. I want to leave you with this today. The servant who buried his talent was not a bad person. He was a fearful one, and fear will always talk you out of doing something with what you've been given. But you are not the servant. You are a faithful steward, and part of stewarding well is being willing to look at what God has already placed in your hands and asking, what can I do with this? Your content is not a burden, it's an asset. And when you organize it well, it becomes a tool that serves your people long after you created it. I pray this encouraged you today. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of this podcast episode. I appreciate you, and I hope you make it a wonderful week. Yay! Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this episode valuable and learned some actionable tips that you can implement in your business so that you can feel accomplished and less stressed. If you enjoyed this show, please take a quick minute to share this with your business bestie, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps me reach more business owners just like you. Remember, with the right system and mindset, you can achieve the success your heart desires. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you next time. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget, let's grow, friends.